Hi everyone, I'm Zorus, and this is part 3 of the Ultimate Guide to Engineers. Okay, so this will be a little shorter video. In the first part, we considered the math behind engineers, and then we went for the ideal setup, the starting spots and the key hexes. In many ways, this video will be deepening what we said about the key hexes for NG. We'll look further into the town spots for NG and how NG should play for network and what does that implies. So let's start with the town spots. And town spots for NG are pretty easy. You have your two main town spots that you will look for. And securing these will be very important early on. So it doesn't mean that you're gonna have to necessarily have all these hexes. But you'll try to have at least enough to do a town. So it's important to think in this way. So that's kind of the main aim. If you can get the 4 hexes on the island, it's very, very good. But often you don't have the red, so you may have to include this one or to do a sanctuary. Sometimes you will be able to take the green, something like that. And so yeah, you need to look for that. Usually, I mean, unless you're really planning on the bridge strategy, if you can avoid building a bridge, it's good. So a bridge here or here, or sometimes, I mean, in this town, sometimes you will even see people doing 2 bridges. I usually prefer to avoid that because it may not look like it, but it's a lot of resources to invest for NG, and they can put these resources to such good use, especially here. I mean, you don't really gain anything since it's you have to dig this hex. At least here it might give you a free hex without advancing shipping, so I see more reason to do that. But NG, I mean, you have always to think of NG as trying to optimize everything, because every resources is so good for them. It's better than any other faction. So if you can get your 2 initial town without having to advance shipping and without having to build bridges, it's usually a good sign. I mean, you will want these town as early as possible with NG, because again, you'll get town, and probably the kind of town you want here are something like coins and workers. That's the 2 town I will prioritize early on. Why? Because again, NG do more out of every resources than any other faction. So if you get 2 workers, it's almost like your normal faction getting 3 workers for the town. And if you use that early on to build your economy, then kinds of snowball into more resources that you'll be able to use to more efficiently than anyone else. So the snowball is even more important with NG. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like late towns for NG, because I want to do my town as early as possible. I would say I'll try to have my 2 towns up by round 4 when I play NG. And to be able to not use any bridge, to dig as much as possible early on, that's usually the most efficient way to do that. Now for the 3rd town for NG. You have 2 main spots for your 3rd town, either south here or here. And south, maybe sometimes you will include this hex too. But I would say that the 3rd town is very often with NG a trap. Usually it should not be your plan to do a 3rd town. If a 3rd town is there, then you go for it, but that's not like what you're aiming for. And why is that? Well, first of all, usually you want to get your town up early on without using Fire 2, because you want to have the points favor. You'll build with the kind of plan that I'm going on, you'll build more than everyone else. So the points fever give you more points than anyone else. Often you will build more trading posts and more dwelling than anyone else. So the point fever are even more important. So Fire 2 with NG is not the most efficient. Also, often when you plan for 3 towns, it means that you will have to delay a little these towns because you wait to have Fire 2 and so on. So you want these towns as early as possible. And the third reason why the third town is not a priority is that you have a lot of good ways to convert your resources into point with NG. And town is one way, but if you have all the points fever, I mean, it is as important often to make sure that you win that work. For example, going for this town is very, very expensive, and you have to use three digs here. And that's the other thing. We'll talk with the next subject, but I can start to talk about it. The kind of efficient way for NG to think about how you will build your expansion is that you don't want to advance shipping too early because it's 4 coin and priest, so it's a lot of resources, and as long as you don't need to advanced shipping, you usually prefer to dig. So you'll need to dig anyway, so it's kind of more efficient to just focus on digging. And that map is glorious for that. I mean, NG has a lot of kind of cheap hexes around their 2 starting spot that they can start digging. So first you want to dig because that's what is more efficient. But at some point, I mean, by the time you get here, and usually by the time that you get in this area, you'll have at least 2 ships. And once you get 2 ships, digging becomes very inefficient for NG because they can grab so many hexes with their shipping. I mean, there's the 2 gray there, there's the 2 gray there, and there will be eventually this gray here. So once you start advancing shipping, starting to dig hexes become very, very inefficient. I would say like the exception, I start thinking about this town. The minute that I get this hex and I know that I can get to this island, say there's no mermaid, for example, there's no threat on these hexes, I know that I'll be able to reach this island with only 1 ship, then it becomes a part of the plan to expand here. But if you need to go around this hex because, for example, Nomad is here and you took this hex, then you need to get to 2 ships here, and that's so much resources that by the time that you get here, if you have to dig to, you're kind of really not efficient. Sometimes much better to stick to your 2 towns, advance shipping, grab hex with shipping rather than digging once shipping is advanced, and then you focus on trading posts and scoring with the track with your favorite child. Usually, and you will win that work, you will make tons of points out of your favorite child, and that's kind of how you will end up getting the big score. But if you start, like for example, trying to do your town here, often what will happen is that it costs you so much resources that you won't be able to win that work. And the cost of not winning that work is often at least a 12-point swing against another faction. So the, I don't know, 8 points that you get, maybe an average for the town here, doesn't work. And also, if you go for a town, often you have, since you use your resources to dig and to ship, you have less to do, say, 1 more trading post, and or maybe you'll have to take Fire 2 instead of Air 1. So, and Air 1 can be really, really efficient as NG. I mean, sometimes you can get both Water 2 and Air 1 by the end of round 4 or round 5. So Air 1, if you can get Air 1 by round 5 with 4 trading posts, rather than trying to do your third town. I mean, Air1 will give you the points. It will give you the 8 points. The trading post, the extra trading post that you are able to build will give you 6 points more. So, I don't know, maybe you go for Stronghold, that's points too. So there's kind of so many ways to score with Tenji that the town and the digging that it implies, it's often not efficient. And again, the exception is when you can get an easy town here, because it's not too much digging. And if you didn't have to advance shipping too much, then going for the third town here, often worth it. But otherwise, I would say, and especially like if you're struggling playing good NG games, that might be very well one of the things that explains it. So if you're struggling, one of my advice would be always go for 2 towns and don't bother like going for the digs that will require a third town. Just focus on 2 towns and focus on other ways of scoring. So bonus, favor, and tracks. And I'm betting you'll get much better result this way. Okay, so we can move to our next topic, which is really kind of continuation of the same topic, or another way to see it. I say, yeah, network should always be on your mind when you're playing NG. It's a faction that can build more than anyone else, and network is a 6 point, is a lot of point swing, because you don't just like win points, you don't just get 80 points for getting network, you also take points away from opponents who will have finished first or second on networks. So it's often a big point swing, and not only that, since you have points favor while you're going for networks, you're scoring. So if you end up often with NG, you can end up with 15, 16 structures. So the extra trading post and the extra dwelling that you build will often be 5, 6 points. So if you ever want, say. So it often, once you add that on the top of the point swing for networks, it's huge. So again, so to say the same thing that I was saying for town, but in another way, my advice is start as digger, and as long as you have 3 hexes around your island, you go for digging them. So as long as you have 1 spade hexes, you use the spade action to dig them, and that's your plan early on. And early on, you can really, often you can, if others don't take the double spades or spade bonus, you can abuse that. Go digging as much as you can. That's really my advice. And then once everything that you can dig for 1 is dig, then you start thinking about shipping, and you almost stop to dig at this point. And with the shipping, you'll have this route, which the idea is to connect these 2 gray, and this route, which idea is to get these 2 gray. And often you'll need 1 dig here in order to do that. And then there is this final way that you'll use. Try to connect these 2 gray hacks. And then again, so your focus is on the 3 hexes here. You want to have this 6 free hacks that are available to shipping, through shipping. So if you can, of course, the easiest way to go west will be to take this hex, but otherwise you might have to take other ones. So if we start a bit slower, again, the idea is go for, once at the beginning you start with 0 ship and you're not in a hurry to advance shipping. Advanced shipping is costing you 4 coins, and those 4 coins worth almost like 6 coins for another faction. So advancing shipping for NG early on is a lot more costly than other faction. So what you want to do is to dig as much as possible. You'll dig these 2 hacks. Often you want, if Brown is in the game, for example, you want to rush this one, or to make sure that he doesn't take it. And this one also, if Brown is in the game and Nomad is not, say, and you are able to take these 2 hexes, you'll have a great game. Often it's tempting to go for these 2 hexes here in order to get this gray hex, and it's true that this free hex is very, very tempting, and if you can do it at no cost, it's good. But I find that often there is more competition for hexes in the middle island, and it's often more important to secure these hexes. Because here, as long as there's no green or red, of course, and often there isn't, you should not be too worried that Darklings take this green. Usually Darklings, even if he's here, it's not very good for him to take this hex. He will prefer to let you advance and get the leech. That's much better for him. So there's usually not too much pressure on these hexes, and I like to start with the middle island where the hexes are very, very competitive. So if you can get this hex and this hex, it's very good. Even I'd say if this hex is available, it's often worth digging. Again, grab everything that you can that is only 1 spade cost before advancing shipping. That's kind of course, there's all kind of exceptions to this rule, but that's kind of the general advice that I suggest that you follow. And then, yeah, these 2, again, it's very efficient if you can connect these 2 gray without having to advance shipping. So if there is no pressure, and in some games, like once you secure this hex, maybe this hex is taken early on, and then there's no pressure here, so it's worth going for this one. And then it's very good. So yeah, you dig everything that you can, and then you start advancing shipping. At 1 ship, you'll want to secure this hex and take this free one. The reason why you want to secure this hex, and this hex is really, really important, as I said, in the key hexes, is that you want to have access to these one. And also, if you didn't succeed to take this one, and after you won't, because Nomad will take it before you, or even Cultist, it will be or say that you didn't get this hex, so you're still here. Sometimes you will lose it to a Nomad stronghold or something like that. Then this hex is good to give you access to these 2 hexes. Of course, if you did get this one, then you'll have access to it anyway. So yeah, just for the access for these 2 anyway, this one is good enough. This one is free with shipping, so that's good. And this one will depends. Usually, like someone in the comments of last video was surprised I didn't mark it as key hexes, and I don't take it, or if I do take it, I take it quite late. I don't find it that important as hexes. It allows you to connect with 2 ships, and that has its merit, because often you can do a good network with this one rather than this one. But often, especially if the fast shipping is in the game, you'll want 3 ships at some point. I mean, you'll want to convert, you'll build an economy that is incredibly strong, and you'll want to convert this economy in all the way that you can. And advancing from 2 ships to 3 ships in terms of points, so if you can do it, say, in your last round with NG, it's a good trade-off. I mean, 1 priest, 4 coins, 4 points. In the end game, it's a very good trade-off. And if there's the shipping bonus, it's even better. So often you'll want 3 ships anyway, so that hex is not that important. And in terms of bridges, I mean, you'll have other opportunities. There's a bridge here, bridge here, bridge here, bridge here. If you want to go for bridges, it's often not that important. So in some specific strategy, it might be, but as a general rule, I don't care too much about this hex. So yeah, with 1 shipping, then you want to secure these 2. Once you get with 2 ships, then you have these 2 hexes that are interesting. And again, these 2, so maybe if you did get this hex, you can get to this part of the island with only 1 ship, and that's usually really, really good. But if you need more, usually you'll need 2 ships. and you'll need to dig one of these to be able to go there. So often that's how it will go. And sometimes you will go with digging this one just to connect this hex, because it gives you access to this hex with only 2 shippings. Otherwise you might need to go 3 ships to go this. And again, I'm usually not too bothered with it. If it's in the late game, the 4 points that you get for advancing shipping is often, I find that it's better to say take this hex and connect with 3 ships rather than to have to dig an extra hex. Say maybe dig these 2 in order to have access to the hexes and connect with 2 ships, because this is 4 points. I mean, it's not bad at all. So yeah, that will be my general kind of recommendation. You want to play for network, and that's how you do it. You start as digger and end as shipper. That's how you need to think of engineers. Alright, so that will be it for this video. So we kind of deepened through it our understanding of how NG should think about their key hexes. And I think, like, to sum up everything, start as digger and end as shipper is really the motto that you should go for when playing NG. So next video we'll go into the building order, so in kind of what order should you build stuff. We'll see different options here, and how you should approach code as NG. So until then, I wish you fun. I hope that you are already starting to play NG and having fun playing them. And we will come back next week for the next video. So thank you for listening. Bye bye.